Hello, you are welcome. How are you doing? Today we'll be discussing linguistic concepts. They are interesting facts or things that we need to know ideally as students of the language. So these are things we can literally use to brag, but the essence is not to brag, but to update ourselves to know some interesting things in the language. So the very first thing we are discussing or talking about today is Pangram. Now, have you heard of the word pangram before? Do you know what it is? That's what I'm here to do. I'm here to explain what it is for us. Now, what is a pangram? A pangram is a sentence that contains every letter of the English alphabet. I repeat, a pangram is a sentence that contains all the letters of the English alphabet. Now, does that sound interesting to you? Can we have a sentence that literally contains all the letters of the English alphabet? Now, let's take a look. Let's see if we can have any. E.g., a quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. So this is a perfect example of a pangram, because in this sentence you find every letter of the English alphabet there. Is it A? Is it B? Is it C? Is it D? Is it Z? Is it F? Is it G? All the letters of the English alphabet are contained in this sentence. So this is a very practical example of a pangram. A quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. So this sentence has all the letters of the English alphabet. I hope that is clear. Now let's go to the second thing we want to talk about. The second thing we want to talk about today is ambigram. Ambigram. Have you heard of the word before? Ambigram. Ambigram. Now, what is an ambigram? An ambigram is a word. An ambigram is a word, phrase, or design that can be read from multiple perspectives. Now, an ambigram is a word. An ambigram is a word, phrase, or design that can be read from multiple perspectives. So I'm just going to give us an example and then we move on to the next. A good example of this is swims. Now, what is the interesting thing about this word swims? Swims is the simple present tense of the word swim. Now, if you write this word on a paper and you turn it upside down, you will still have the same word. So that is the interesting thing. That is the interesting thing about ambigrams. Ambigrams are words, phrases, or designs that can be read from multiple perspectives. So under ambigram, you can have a lot of things actually, but we are going to talk about them shortly. So basically, an ambigram is a word, phrase, or design that can be read from multiple perspectives. So a good example is the word swims. If you write the word on a paper, swims, and you turn it upside down, you still have the word swims. Also, if you write mom, M-O-M, on a sheet of paper and you turn it upside down, you have the word wow. So that is another form of an ambigram. So we are going to talk about these things shortly as we progress in our exercise, or whatever you can call it. Now let's go to another interesting thing. Another interesting thing is um, palindrome. It's palindrome or palindromes. Now, what is a palindrome? Have you heard of it before? A palindrome is a word that reads the same as forwards and backwards. I repeat, a palindrome, it could be a word, it could be a phrase or sequence that reads the same backwards as forwards. Let me write that out. A word that reads the same backwards as forwards. So can you think of any word that if you read it backwards, it will give you the same thing as when you read it forwards? Now, a good example is did, the past tense of do, did. Now, if you read this word from the front, you will have the same thing. If you read it from the back, you will have the same thing. We have another race car. We have another race car. So if you read this word from the front, you have the same thing. If you read it from the back, you have the same thing. Read it from the back, you still have RACECAR, race car. It could also be a word. If it could also be a word. Now, it could also be a sentence as well. It could be a word, it could be a sentence, it could be a phrase. Now, let's have this sentence: nurses run. Nurses run. Nurses run. Now, if you read this from the front, you have nurses run. If you read it from the back, you have nurses run. NU, spelling from the back now, NURSES, that is nurses. Then RUN, that is run. So these are just linguistic concepts that are very, very interesting. So they are interesting things to know and to play with in English language. Now we also have anagrams. I think most likely you must have heard of this before. Anagrams. Now, what are anagrams, or what is an anagram? An anagram is a word or phrase formed by rearranging the letters of another word. An anagram is a word or phrase formed by rearranging the letters of another word. It's very simple. If you have a word, now you can use the exact spelling or the exact letters of the word to form another word. That is basically an anagram for you. Let me write the meaning of this helps. A word. Please note that it could be a word, it could be a phrase, it could be a clause or whatever. A word or phrases formed by rearranging the letters, the letters of another let me Okay, of another word. Now let's look at the examples we have. E.g., we can have let's think of a word. We can have the word silence. We can have the word silence. So from the word silence, we can rearrange the letters to form another word. We can have let me get an arrow. Now sorry. Now um so from the word silence, we can have um enlist. We can have inlets. What other thing can we have here? We can have listen. We can have listen. So this is a practical demonstration of what anagrams are. Is just a way of forming another word, of getting another word from a given word. So from the word silence, we have the word enlist. You can enlist a soldier, somebody as a soldier. You can have inlets. You can have the word listen. You can have the word listen. So these are just interesting things that you can always bear in mind um, whenever it comes to English language. So what other thing can we talk about? We have the word um, we have the word autograms. We also have autograms. We have autograms. What are autograms? Autograms are sentences. Autograms are sentences that describe themselves. That describes themselves. E.g., so an autogram or autograms are just sentences that describe themselves. In other words, they are sentences that are self-explanatory. So when you read the sentence, you don't need any aid to automatically understand or know what that sentence represents or the message it conveys. This a good example is this. Sorry, this sentence has 5 words. Now, this sentence has 5 words. Let's count the words that we have in this sentence. This 1, sentence 2 has 3, 5, 4, then words 5. So this particular sentence contains 5 words, and the sentence itself tells us that. So this is a good example of an autogram. An autogram is a sentence that is self-explanatory, or that tells or describes itself. Now let's go to other things that we have. let's go to other things that we have. I hope you are noticing these things we are saying. These are very interesting things that we should know as far as English language is concerned. As far as English language is concerned. So let me clean this and we talk about two more or three, then we close for the day.